Colon cancer is one of the most common and silent diseases that can impact our health, but detecting it early can make a significant difference in treatment and recovery. In this video, we'll explore the warning signs and symptoms you should never ignore, helping you protect your well-being and that of your loved ones. Additionally, you'll discover an inspiring Buddhist story that teaches us the importance of mindfulness and how listening to our bodies can save our lives. Don't miss this valuable information. When Maceo woke up that morning, the sun had not yet risen. The room was cold and dark. Slowly, he sat up in bed and looked out the small window beside him. The mountains stood majestically against the night sky, a view he had grown familiar with during his 10 years living in the monastery. Closing his eyes again, Maceo began his morning meditation routine, focusing on his breath. He tried to quiet his mind, but he was restless. Lately, his thoughts wandered more than usual, distracted by both mental and physical sensations. After 20 minutes of effort, Maceo opened his eyes and sighed. He decided to go for a walk to clear his mind before starting his daily tasks. Dressing silently so as not to disturb the other monks sleeping in neighbouring cells, Maceo stepped outside. The morning air was cool and damp. Among the trees, he walked aimlessly along the winding paths around the monastery, enjoying the stillness and natural beauty that surrounded him. Suddenly, he felt a twisting sensation in his stomach, a sudden urge to find a bathroom. The feeling was urgent, and Maceo began desperately searching for a suitable spot among the trees. Finally, he found a thick bush that offered some privacy. Relieved, Maceo returned to the path, but he felt uneasy. Recently, he had been experiencing similar episodes more frequently, and the changes in his bowel habits worried him. He decided to consult Master Isao, an elderly and wise monk who often offered sensible advice. Arriving at the dining hall for breakfast, Maceo saw Master Isao eating silently alongside a few early-rising monks. Joining them with his bowl of rice, Maceo ate thoughtfully, summoning the courage to discuss his personal problem with the respected master. Finally, as the dining hall emptied, Maceo approached Isao timidly. "Honourable Master, may I take a few moments of your valuable time to seek your advice?" The elderly monk looked at him kindly. "Of course, my child, sit with me." Sitting across from the sage, Maceo recounted his symptoms with some embarrassment. Master Isao listened attentively, nodding to show his understanding. "I understand your concern, Maceo," he said at last. "Changes in our bodies are signals we must heed. Your body is trying to tell you something." Maceo looked at him expectantly. Was this part of normal aging? He had never experienced anything like it before. "I will give you a special herbal remedy to help soothe your stomach," the master said kindly. "But I also think you should consult with Dr. Yuto the next time you visit the village. Doctors have ways of investigating what might be causing your symptoms." Maceo nodded, comforted by Isao's wise counsel. He respectfully bid the master farewell and began his morning tasks with a lighter heart, feeling understood. In the days that followed, Maceo drank the herbal infusion prepared by Master Isao, finding some relief in its earthy warmth. However, the problem persisted. One morning, while sweeping fallen leaves in the temple courtyard, a sharp twisting pain made him drop the broom and run to the monastery bathrooms, clutching his abdomen. The episodes had intensified in recent months. Concerned, Maceo decided to go down to the village earlier than planned to consult with Dr. Yuto, as Master Isao had advised. The mountain path to the small village was as beautiful as always, but Maceo couldn't fully appreciate it, distracted by the discomfort in his abdomen. Upon arriving at the modest medical clinic, Maceo explained his symptoms to the kind Dr. Yuto. The doctor listened attentively and then began asking several questions. "Maceo, in addition to changes in your bowel movements, have you noticed anything else unusual in recent weeks? Blood in your stool, weight loss, fatigue?" Maceo thought for a moment, then shook his head. "No, doctor, just this persistent intestinal issue, but I'm worried something isn't right." Dr. Yuto nodded seriously. We'll do some tests, but given your age and symptoms, I want to rule out the possibility of something more serious. I don't want to alarm you, but these changes could be indicators of conditions like colorectal cancer. Maceo felt a chill run down his spine. Cancer. He had heard terrible stories about the disease, but never imagined he might have it. Following the doctor's instructions, Maceo provided samples for various tests. Dr. Yuto assured him he would contact him as soon as the results were ready. The following days at the monastery were filled with anxious waiting and worry for Maceo. His mind imagined the worst scenarios. Finally, one afternoon, a messenger arrived from the village. With trembling hands, Maceo opened the small letter. Dear Maceo, the results are negative for malignancy but show intestinal parasitosis, which may explain your symptoms. Please return to begin treatment. With relief at Dr. Yuto, Maceo felt his soul return to his body. Thanking the heavens, he let out a sigh of relief. While he still had to address the parasitic issue, he was deeply grateful it wasn't something more serious. That night at dinner, he shared the good news with Master Isao. The elderly monk smiled kindly. I'm very glad, my child. Always listen to what your body and mind are trying to tell you. The answers we seek often come when we learn to hear the right messages. Bowing in reverence, Maceo expressed his gratitude for the invaluable advice. He still had changes to make to improve his well-being, but felt wiser thanks to the gentle teachings of his master. With patience and introspection, Maceo trusted he would find balance. Here the highlighted symptom is the persistent change in bowel habits, which can be a warning sign to investigate more serious health issues. Although in Maceo's case it wasn't cancer, his story illustrates the importance of paying attention to what the body communicates and seeking professional help for any concerning changes. By tuning into our inner wisdom, we can decipher the subtle messages to guide our well-being. His eyes widened with surprise and fear at an unexpected sight. His stool was tinged with dark red. Blood. Could it be blood in his feces? With his heart racing, Maceo took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. Carefully he cleaned up and adjusted his clothing with trembling hands. He needed to return to the monastery immediately to inform Master Isao. Quickly, though with weak legs, Maceo hurried up the hill toward the monastery grounds. He searched frantically for the elder monk, finally finding him meditating peacefully beneath a blooming cherry tree. Master Isao, Maceo called breathlessly, please, I need to speak with you urgently. Maceo, sit here with me, the monk replied in his usual calm tone, patting the space beside him on the stone bench. Master Isao gazed at him with compassion. Maceo sank heavily onto the cold stone, his head spinning. Haltingly, the young monk described what had happened, looking to the wise elder for answers. Was this blood a dangerous sign? He feared the worst after his recent diagnosis of parasitic infection. Master Isao listened attentively, not interrupting. After a reflective pause, he spoke slowly. Blood can have various causes, but it must be investigated without delay. For now, do not let your mind fill with fearful stories. Go in peace to Dr. Yuto and find out more. Nodding, Maceo felt a wave of gratitude for the elder monk's calming presence. He bowed and set off once again toward the village clinic, gathering his courage. Upon arriving, he found the kind Dr. Yuto attending to a young mother with her baby. He waited politely for the consultation to finish, struggling to contain his growing anxiety. Maceo, welcome. Please come in, the doctor greeted, inviting him into his small back office. Tell me, how is your treatment for the parasites going? Taking a deep breath, Maceo described the public bathroom episode during the festival and the terrifying sight of blood in his stool. The doctor listened with a furrowed brow, occasionally asking questions. Finally, he leaned back in his chair, his expression serious. I'm afraid this might be more serious than we initially thought, Maceo. Visible blood indicates that the source is in the lower intestinal tract, and we need to determine why. I strongly recommend further tests. Maceo swallowed hard, his throat suddenly dry. Could it be hemorrhoids or an intestinal infection? He asked in a faint voice. Dr. Yuto shook his head slightly. It's unlikely given the location. I fear it could be a tumor, possibly cancerous, but let's not jump to conclusions. We'll do all the necessary tests first. A chill ran down Masayo's spine at the word cancerous. The optimism Master Isao had instilled in him dissolved, replaced by a cold terror. The days waiting for the results of the endoscopy and colonoscopy were agonizing for Masayo. He sought refuge in the monastery's routines and long conversations with Master Isao, who gently guided him through his fear. Finally, nearly 2 weeks later, a messenger arrived with the results. Trembling, Masayo read the words confirming his worst fears: early-stage colon cancer. Immediate treatment was necessary. His knees buckled beneath him, and a sob escaped his throat. The cold stone floor of the temple courtyard pressed against his legs. He barely registered the arms that caught him. "Masayo, my child," came Master Isao's voice, barely recognizable through the storm in Masayo's mind. Slowly, Masayo's wave of anguish subsided under the monk's calming murmurs and comforting presence. "It's over, Master. I have that terrible disease," he whispered hoarsely. Isao helped him to his feet and guided him to a nearby bench. "Do not say that. You have much ahead of you, and there are treatments. You must have hope and faith." The elder monk's eyes radiated a serene certainty that slowly pierced Masayo's despair. Nodding hesitantly, Masayo wiped his tears. "But I must begin immediately, as the doctor said." Isao took Masayo's hands in his own, wrinkled with age. "Go in peace and do what you must. I will be here, guiding you in spirit. The mountain and the temple will always be your home." The following weeks were a whirlwind for Masayo. He began an aggressive combination of chemotherapy and radiation therapy under Dr. Yuto's careful supervision. The side effects soon weakened his body, but he clung bravely to the hope Master Isao had instilled in him. Between treatment cycles, Masayo spent time at the monastery, rebuilding his physical and spiritual strength. He meditated for long periods with Isao, who taught him breathing techniques and visualizations to alleviate the pain. By connecting with his inner stillness, Masayo found peace. Months later, the day finally arrived for the results of his post-treatment scans. With Isao by his side, Masayo listened as Dr. Yuto announced the long-awaited words: "There is no detectable evidence of cancer." Tears streamed uncontrollably down Masayo's cheeks. His nightmare was over. He looked at the elder monk, who returned a radiant smile. "You did it, my child. You never lost faith," Isao said, embracing him tightly as Masayo wept on the shoulder of his beloved mentor. Their bond had been forged in the fires of adversity, emerging stronger and filled with deep gratitude. Back at the monastery, Masayo fully resumed his daily activities. One hot afternoon, while climbing a steep hillside to collect herbs, a sharp pain stopped him in his tracks. Alarmed, he noticed a few drops of blood staining the rocks before him. Trembling for a moment, he took a deep breath, recalling Isao's teachings. He remembered that Dr. Yuto had permitted a gradual reduction in medication, so occasional bleeding was to be expected. Consciously releasing his fear, he continued his journey. That night at dinner, he shared the incident with the venerable monk. Isao listened and nodded thoughtfully. "You have done well not to cling to fear, dear Masayo, but you must continue your checkups to care for the body that sustains you." Masayo bowed respectfully. "You have taught me so much, Master, to listen to the subtle signals without letting anxiety cloud my path. I owe you my life." Isao smiled kindly. "The wisdom was always within you. I only helped it emerge. Your inner strength is inspiring." Bowing his head humbly, Masayo contemplated the future with hope and gratitude. Alongside his noble mentor, he trusted he could navigate any path with equanimity and compassion. Life had returned to flow fully within him. The highlighted symptom in this story is the presence of dark red blood in the stool, which turned out to be a sign of colorectal cancer in Masayo. Though terrifying, the bleeding prompted an investigation that allowed the disease to be detected early. This story underscores the importance of never ignoring this critical warning sign. While bleeding can originate from other benign conditions, It is essential to conduct tests to determine the underlying cause. By tuning into our inner voice and seeking wisdom from others, we can navigate life's challenging paths. It was a splendid spring day when Maceo returned to the monastery grounds after his latest quarterly oncology checkup. Nature around him brimmed with life. The daffodils and peonies were beginning to bloom, and birds sang cheerfully among the radiant cherry trees. Inhaling the fresh, fragrant air, Maceo felt a gratitude that words could not capture. 3 years had passed since the conclusion of his colon cancer treatments, and he cherished every moment, fully aware of life's impermanence. He found Master Isao in the central courtyard, sweeping fallen petals from the blooming trees. Joining the task, the two monks worked together in a comfortable silence. After completing a few more chores, they retreated to rest under the shade of an ancient oak. Maceo proceeded to share news of his latest medical visit. "Dr. Yuto was very pleased with my test results," he explained. "He says I remain completely free of any trace of cancer." Isao nodded, pleased. "Excellent news. I trust you will continue with your regular checkups." "Indeed, Master, I will remain ever vigilant," Maceo replied, though his expression grew slightly concerned. "Although I have been experiencing some digestive discomfort lately, nothing severe but rather persistent." The elder monk frowned slightly. "Tell me more, my son." Maceo described a sensation of heaviness and abdominal discomfort after meals that had lingered for weeks. He also mentioned occasional episodes of constipation, feeling as though he could not completely evacuate. "I see," Isao reflected for a moment. "It might be nothing, but I suggest you bring this up with Dr. Yuto. Better to prevent than lament, as they say." Nodding, Maceo agreed. "I will make an appointment on my next trip to the village." On the day of the medical consultation, Dr. Yuto listened carefully to Maceo's symptoms and conducted a thorough clinical examination. After ruling out several benign causes, the doctor ordered specific tests for the colon. Anxious, Maceo returned days later to receive the results. To his relief, the endoscopy and colonoscopy indicated no recurrence of cancer. However, the serious expression on Dr. Yuto's face alerted him that something was not entirely right. "The good news, Maceo, is that your tests confirm you remain in complete remission 3 years after completing treatment," the doctor said with a slight smile. Maceo took a deep breath. "Thank God, but I sense you have other concerns." Gravely, the doctor continued, "Unfortunately, the tests revealed a partial obstruction in your ascending intestine caused by scar tissue from your prior radiation therapy. This explains the sensation of incomplete evacuation." Maceo's shoulders slumped at the news. "I see. Is this treatable, doctor?" "There are several options," Dr. Yuto explained. "We could try dilations and certain medications. In extreme cases, surgery may be required, but let's not rush into that. We'll begin with less invasive alternatives." Relieved to hear of gradual approaches, Maceo nodded. The doctor laid out an initial treatment plan, and they agreed to closely monitor his progress over the coming weeks. That evening, Maceo meditated deeply on his conversation with the doctor. While the obstruction was concerning, he trusted that they could manage it. What unsettled him more was the remote possibility of undergoing major colon surgery again. Feeling the need to clear his mind, Maceo walked under the night sky to a favourite lookout point. The breeze whispered through the fir trees, and a crescent moon faintly illuminated the nearby mountain peaks. Inhaling the scent of pine and damp earth, Maceo felt his anxiety dissipate. The universe had a way of reminding him of life's transience. His mission was to flow with changing circumstances without attachment. A week later, Isao noticed that Maceo moved stiffly after short periods of formal meditation. Occasional dizziness and general discomfort also worried the elder mentor. "The stress of recent events is draining your energy, Maceo," Isao observed. "Depleting your chi, as the ancients would say," he added with a smile. "I believe you would benefit from a few days of rest and recovery." Recognizing the wisdom in Isao's words, Maceo agreed. That afternoon, He packed a modest bag and set off along a little-used trail winding deep into the nearby mountains. He walked until he reached a cluster of cave dwellings built centuries ago by hermit monks in the steep cliffs. Choosing a small cave with a straw mat for seating, Maceo settled into meditation. The next 3 days were filled with stillness and silence, broken only by the occasional bird song. Maceo found great relief and clarity in this impromptu retreat. His joint pain subsided, and his mind regained its calm. However, by the 4th day his digestive symptoms had worsened. He experienced a particularly troubling episode of incomplete evacuation, accompanied by cramping. Concerned, Maceo decided to return and inform Dr. Yuto. After examining him and reviewing his previous tests, the doctor strongly recommended proceeding with an endoscopic dilation as the next step. The procedure was scheduled, and Maceo returned to the monastery feeling relieved to have a concrete plan. On his way back up the mountain, he paused briefly at the lookout point that had inspired him weeks earlier. The landscape was still breathtakingly beautiful. Smiling to himself, he watched a hawk circling in the wind. Everything passes, this too shall pass, he reminded himself. He trusted that he could face this challenge with equanimity, one step at a time. By mid-morning the sun shone brightly as Maceo finished sweeping dry leaves around the monastery's koi pond. For the past few weeks he had noticed that he tired more easily during daily chores. Concerned, he decided to consult Master Isao during lunch in the communal dining hall. After eating in contemplative silence for a few moments, Maceo spoke respectfully. "Honourable Isao, I wish to seek your advice. Lately I've observed unusual fatigue and exhaustion. I fear my health might be suffering." Isao regarded his pupil with compassionate eyes. "Tell me more about what you've noticed, my son." Maceo described his reduced energy and vigour, especially when performing physical tasks that once felt effortless. He also mentioned occasional episodes of dizziness and unexplained muscle aches. The elder monk listened thoughtfully. After a moment of reflection, he spoke slowly. "You were wise to bring this up, Maceo. Your body may be signalling that it needs help." "I believe so too, Master. I plan to consult Dr. Yuto during my next trip to the village," Maceo affirmed. Maceo gave a slight bow to express gratitude for the guidance he had received. "Make sure to mention all your symptoms, even those that may seem trivial," Isao advised. "I trust you will find answers. In the meantime, avoid exhausting yourself too much with chores." Relieved to have his mentor's blessing to temporarily reduce his responsibilities, Maceo finished his meal with a lighter heart. After washing the bowls, he went to rest under the shade of his favourite tree. A gentle breeze whispered through the leaves as birds chirped happily. Closing his eyes, Maceo tried to relax, but worries about his health lingered, making it difficult for him to fall asleep. In the days leading up to his medical appointment, Maceo sought additional rest, but his symptoms persisted. Even simple tasks like sweeping the temple paths left him breathless and weak. Finally, during the consultation, Dr. Yuto listened intently to Maceo's concerns, his expression grave. After a thorough physical examination, the doctor ordered a battery of blood tests and scheduled a CT scan. "We need to rule out several potential issues, Maceo. Your oncological history makes it essential for us to be extremely cautious," the doctor explained, meeting his patient's anxious gaze. While awaiting the test results, Maceo returned to the monastery, spending long hours meditating to find solace. Under Isao's watchful guidance, he tried to listen more closely to his body's needs. A week later, Maceo returned to Dr. Yuto's office with growing apprehension. After carefully reviewing the test results, the doctor exhaled slowly before speaking. "I have good news and bad news, Maceo," he began, removing his glasses to rub the bridge of his nose. The CT scan showed no signs of cancer recurrence. Feeling as though his soul had returned to his body, Maceo let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Thank heaven, that's wonderful news, Doctor." Dr. Yuto nodded but maintained a serious expression. "However, your blood tests reveal that you have anemia, abnormally low levels of red blood cells and hemoglobin. Maceo blinked, confused. I see, and what could cause that? There are several possibilities, the doctor explained. Nutritional deficiencies, parasitic infections, hidden bleeding, or more serious conditions. We need to investigate further. In the following days, Maceo underwent additional tests. After ruling out countless possibilities, the diagnosis was chronic iron deficiency anemia. It seems to be a result of your previous treatments and surgery, the doctor explained. Mild but repeated bleeding has led to this iron deficiency, which now explains your fatigue and weakness. Relieved to finally understand the cause, Maceo received instructions to follow a strict diet and take iron supplements. He also agreed to closely monitor his vital signs with Dr. Yuto to ensure his levels improved. That night, as he ate a modest dinner with Master Isao, Maceo shared the results of his recent medical evaluations. "I'm very glad you persisted in finding a diagnosis, Maceo," Isao said kindly. "Regaining your vitality will take time and patience, but you'll achieve it." Nodding, Maceo expressed his gratitude for the unwavering support of the revered monk. Throughout his health struggles, Isao had been a beacon of light in his darkest moments. In the weeks that followed, Maceo's progress was closely monitored. Gradually, as his treatment took effect, his energy levels began to improve. 3 months later, he felt fully recovered. One sunny morning, after a particularly profound meditation session, Maceo served tea to Isao in the temple courtyard. "I can see the vitality restored in your eyes, my son," the elder monk observed with a smile. Maceo nodded. "Indeed, Master, my strength has completely returned. I am deeply grateful to you for guiding me through this arduous trial." Isao gently shook his head. "You faced your challenges with courage and wisdom. I always trusted you would prevail." Looking at his mentor's steady figure, Maceo felt that a chapter of his life had closed, giving way to a new one. He had grown stronger through adversity and could now walk with greater resolve. It was a sunny summer day, and Maceo enjoyed the warm weather as he tended the monastery's vegetable garden. After harvesting the last of the garlic, he stood to stretch and ease the stiffness in his knees. Looking with satisfaction at the baskets overflowing with fresh vegetables, he smiled to himself. His health and energy had remained stable since overcoming anemia the year prior. He had even resumed all his activities and responsibilities as a monk. Later, as he carried a particularly heavy basket to the kitchen, Maceo suddenly felt dizzy. He had to lean against a stone column as a cold sweat broke out and he felt weak. Isao frowned deeply. "I'm concerned this might indicate something more serious. You should see Dr. Yuto today if possible." Gravely nodding, Maceo agreed. "I'll leave for the village after breakfast. Please pray for me," he added, bowing slightly. A few hours later, seated in the doctor's office, Maceo described his symptoms to Dr. Yuto. The doctor listened thoughtfully, taking occasional notes. "Initially, this could be due to exhaustion or dehydration from the summer heat," he said, pensive, "but we must rule out other, more worrisome possibilities." Swallowing hard, Maceo nodded, aware that the doctor was considering a recurrence of his previous cancer. A series of tests was scheduled for the following week. In the days leading up to the results, Maceo sought refuge in the mountain's quietude. He meditated for hours, observing the rock formations and drifting clouds, trying to calm his anxious mind. Finally, the day arrived. Trembling, he listened as Dr. Yuto announced the good news. "The tests show no signs of cancer returning. Thank heaven." Staggered by a wave of relief, Maceo took a moment to regain his composure. "That's wonderful news, Doctor. But what, then, is causing these symptoms?" Dr. Yuto clasped his hands on the desk. "Unfortunately, you've lost significant weight over the past few months, more than 6 kilograms. I believe this unexplained weight loss is responsible for your weakness episodes." Perplexed, Maceo blinked. He hadn't consciously noticed losing weight. "How could this happen without any apparent reason?" The doctor elaborated. "It's likely that your body isn't properly absorbing all the nutrients. We need to investigate further." Over the next few weeks, Maceo underwent numerous tests. Eventually, a CT enterography revealed the cause of his weight loss and digestive issues. "Your previous cancer treatments and surgery have left scars and inflamed areas in your small intestine," Dr. Yuto explained. "This is making nutrient absorption difficult, resulting in this deficit." Processing the explanation, Maceo nodded slowly and inquired about treatment options. The doctor prescribed special medications and a strict high-calorie, high-protein diet. A month later, after rigorously adhering to the recommendations, Maceo returned to the doctor for a follow-up. "You look much better, Maceo," the doctor observed. "You've regained almost 2 kilograms and your tests show more normalized levels." Maceo smiled, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. "I feel stronger too, doctor." "Thank you very much." He bowed respectfully to the kind physician. That night, as he meditated in the monastery courtyard under a starry sky, Maceo reflected on the ups and downs of his health over the past few years. He felt profound gratitude for the help he had received in overcoming each obstacle. Suddenly he perceived the familiar sound of halting steps behind him. "Join me, Honourable Master Isao," Maceo said without turning, immediately recognizing the presence of his mentor. Isao sat heavily beside his pupil, his gaze warm and full of affection. "It fills my heart with joy to see the colour restored to your cheeks, my child." Maceo bowed his head in reverence. "You have been with me every step of this rocky path, Master. I owe you my life." Taking Maceo's thin hands gently in his own, Isao softly shook his head. "It is your strength of spirit that has made the difference. You continue to inspire me, Maceo, even after all these years." Deeply moved, Maceo bowed fully before the noble figure of his mentor, his infinite gratitude going beyond words. In silent communion, both monks turned their gaze toward the radiant sky. The bond between them, forged through trials and tribulations, was unbreakable. The Case of Maceo, Lessons in Wisdom and Resilience. The story of Maceo illustrates profound teachings about life's impermanence and humanity's capacity to transcend adversity with grace and inner strength. Over the course of years marked by health challenges, 7 critical warning signs manifested in his body. By heeding them in time and with the compassionate guidance of his mentor, the venerable monk Isao, Maceo was able to navigate these obstacles, reaffirming his commitment to his spiritual path. Symptom 1. Changes in bowel habits. It began one chilly spring morning when Maceo, a middle-aged Buddhist monk, noticed alterations in his bowel movements. Episodes of diarrhea and constipation persisted for several weeks. Concerned, Maceo sought the wisdom of the elder Master Isao, who wisely urged him to consult a medical professional. Dr. Yuto began an exhaustive evaluation, eventually ruling out the feared possibility of cancer and diagnosing an intestinal parasitic infection. Though initially subtle, the prolonged changes in Maceo's bowel habits proved significant, and investigating the cause was crucial. Digestive health is foundational to quality of life, and persistent variations deserve thorough evaluation. Symptom 2. Lower gastrointestinal bleeding. Months after his first intestinal anomaly, while attending the traditional village festival, Maceo experienced a frightening episode of passing dark blood. Recognizing its potential severity, he urgently sought the counsel of Master Isao, who guided him to undergo comprehensive tests. These confirmed the feared diagnosis of colorectal cancer, requiring immediate aggressive treatment. Fortunately, thanks to early detection of this critical warning sign, Maceo's prognosis was favorable. Visible intestinal bleeding should always prompt a colonoscopy, even when other digestive symptoms are absent. While benign causes are common, The risk of severe conditions necessitates proper investigation. Symptom 3, feeling of incomplete bowel evacuation. 3 years into complete remission from cancer, Maceo began experiencing post-meal abdominal discomfort and a persistent sensation of incomplete bowel evacuation. Worried, Master Isao emphasized the importance of promptly investigating even seemingly mild symptoms. Tests revealed a partial bowel obstruction caused by scar tissue from previous radiation treatments. Fortunately, early detection allowed for minimally invasive treatment options. The sensation of incomplete evacuation can stem from various causes, ranging from functional pelvic floor disorders to severe organic conditions, all of which require professional evaluation. Symptom 4, abdominal pain. Although abdominal pain was not a primary symptom in Maceo's case, its potential seriousness warrants mention as a critical warning sign frequently associated with colorectal cancer or other serious intestinal issues. The pain may vary in intensity, from mild discomfort to excruciating cramps, and may be intermittent or persistent. Accompanying gastrointestinal symptoms may occur, or the pain may be the sole noticeable issue. Chronic or unexplained abdominal pain requires accurate diagnosis through complementary tests. Symptom 5, fatigue. After years of stable health, Maceo noticed a loss of energy and disproportionate fatigue while performing his daily monastic tasks. Concerned due to his previous cancer history, he consulted Dr. Yuto, who began a thorough evaluation. Thankfully, cancer recurrence was ruled out, but blood tests confirmed anemia, a deficiency of circulating red blood cells. After extensive investigation, the anemia was determined to be multifactorial, stemming from prior treatments. With parenteral iron therapy and nutritional support, Maceo's symptoms improved significantly. This case highlights how feelings of fatigue or weakness, especially in older patients or those with chronic illnesses, should be thoroughly investigated. Symptom 6, weight loss. One summer afternoon, while tending to the monastery's vegetable garden, Maceo suddenly felt overwhelmed by severe weakness and dizziness, forcing him to pause his work. Concerned by these symptoms, he consulted Dr. Yuto, who discovered that Maceo had unintentionally lost over 6 kilograms in the past year. Further evaluations revealed the underlying cause: malabsorption stemming from inflammation and scarring in his small intestine due to previous cancer treatments. With the help of medications and a carefully tailored high-calorie diet, Maceo's nutritional balance was restored. This episode highlights the importance of addressing unexplained weight loss, which can often signal hidden health issues that require prompt investigation to prevent further complications. Symptom 7, general alarm signs. Beyond the gastrointestinal symptoms already discussed, there are broader warning signs that may hint at the presence of hidden illnesses. Paraneoplastic syndromes, for instance, can often serve as early indicators of undiagnosed cancer. These syndromes may manifest through persistent fevers with no clear cause, excessive night sweats, recurring blood clots, unexplained anemia, significant weight loss, elevated inflammatory markers, or neurological disturbances. The presence of one or more of these symptoms should prompt a thorough medical evaluation to uncover the root cause. A lesson in vigilance and perseverance. Maceo's journey serves as a profound reminder of the importance of attentiveness to our body's subtle signals. What might initially seem insignificant can often point to deeper issues when left unaddressed. For those with complex medical histories or known risk factors, any prolonged symptom should be a call to action for further investigation. Maceo's approach to his health challenges, marked by humility, determination, and trust in the process, exemplifies the strength needed to face life's trials. His story inspires us to listen closely to the whispers of our bodies, embrace each moment with openness, and remain steadfast in the face of uncertainty. Until we meet again, dear friends, let us carry this wisdom forward with courage and mindfulness.